The rain was coming down so hard I couldn't see the front door from the driveway, and that was saying something because I had lived in that house my entire life, knew every crack in the sidewalk, every creak in the stairs, every shadow that fell across the porch at dusk. But the hurricane had turned everything sideways, had ripped the familiar from its moorings and replaced it with chaos, and I was standing in the middle of it, 17 years old, soaked to the bone, holding a duffel bag that contained everything I owned, watching my parents through the window as they turned their backs and walked away from the glass, my mother's hand on my father's arm, my father's hand on the lock, and then the click, the sound of a deadbolt sliding home, the sound of a door closing, the sound of a family ending. My name is Sadie Marin. I'm 34 years old, and when I was 17, my parents locked me out of our house during a hurricane because I told them I was pregnant, because I refused to have an abortion, because I chose to keep the baby that my boyfriend had walked away from the moment I told him the news. They said I had disgraced the family, that I had ruined my future, that I was not their daughter anymore. And then they closed the door and turned off the lights and went to bed, leaving me on the porch in the storm, with nothing but a duffel bag and a belly that was starting to show. I remember standing there, watching the rain streak down the window, watching the shadows of my parents move through the living room, up the stairs into their bedroom, watching the lights go out one by one until the house was dark and I was alone. And I remember thinking that this was not how it was supposed to happen, that parents were supposed to protect you, not abandon you, that home was supposed to be safe, not a place you could be locked out of, that love was supposed to be unconditional, not something you lost the moment you made a mistake. But I was wrong. I learned that night that love had conditions, that home was just a building, that parents were just people, and that the only person you could really count on was yourself, and maybe, if you were lucky, your grandmother. Before I tell you what happened next, before I tell you about the grandmother who took me in, who spoke a single word that changed everything, who gave me the strength to survive, I need you to do something. Hit like if you've ever been abandoned by someone who should have protected you. Subscribe if you believe that family is not about blood, and drop a comment with your location and local time. I want to know where the survivors are watching from tonight. Let me take you back to the house on Magnolia Street, a modest colonial in a quiet neighborhood in Charleston, South Carolina, where I had grown up believing that my family was normal, that my parents loved me, that I was safe. My father, Richard Marin, was a deacon at our church, a man who preached about forgiveness and compassion on Sundays and practiced judgment and control the rest of the week. He was the kind of father who set curfews and enforced them, who read my texts and checked my browser history, who believed that his job was to protect me from the world by keeping me locked inside it. My mother, Patricia Marin, was a teacher at the local elementary school, loved by her students, respected by her colleagues, and terrified of my father. She never contradicted him, never questioned him, never stood up to him, even when she knew he was wrong, especially when she knew he was wrong. She had learned, over 20 years of marriage, that peace was more important than principle, that survival was more important than justice, that keeping the peace was worth any cost, even the cost of her daughter. My grandmother, Evelyn Marin, was different. She was my father's mother, and she had never approved of the way he raised his children, never approved of the way he treated his wife, never approved of the way he used religion as a weapon instead of a comfort. She lived in a small apartment across town alone since my grandfather had died, and she was the only person in the family who made me feel seen, who made me feel valued, who made me feel like I was more than my mistakes. "You remind me of myself, Sadie," she used to say. "When I was your age, I was stubborn, too. I made choices that people didn't understand. I got into trouble, but I survived, and you will too, because you have something that your father doesn't have." "What's that, Grandma?" "Heart. You have heart. You care about people. You feel things deeply. You're not afraid to love, even when loving hurts, and that's not a weakness. No matter what your father says, that's a strength. That's the only strength that matters." The boy who got me pregnant was named Tyler. He was 17, too, a junior at the same high school, with a smile that made my knees weak and a reputation that should have made me run the other way. I knew he was trouble, knew he had been with other girls, knew he didn't believe in commitment, but I was 16 and lonely and desperate for someone to see me, and he saw me, or at least he pretended to. We dated for 6 months, hiding from my parents, sneaking around after school, meeting at the mall, the movies, the parking lot behind the bowling alley. He said he loved me, said I was different, said he had never felt this way before, and I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because I needed to believe that someone could love me the way my parents didn't. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified, not just because I was 17, not just because I had no idea how to be a mother, but because I knew what my parents would say, what my father would do, how my mother would react. I knew that this would be the thing that broke them, the thing that proved I was the disappointment they had always feared I would become. I told Tyler first over the phone because I was too scared to say in person. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said the words that I would remember for the rest of my life. "That's not my problem, Sadie. You need to take care of it." "Take care of it? What do you mean, take care of it?" "You know what I mean, get rid of it. I'm not ready to be a father. I'm not ready to give up my life for some mistake." "It's not a mistake, Tyler. It's a baby, our baby." "It's a mistake, Sadie, and you need to fix it. I'm not going to be part of this. I'm not going to be trapped. Don't call me again." He hung up, and I sat on my bed, holding the phone, staring at the wall, feeling the life inside me grow, and I realized that I was alone, completely, utterly, terrifyingly alone. I told my parents the next night, after dinner, when my father was in his recliner and my mother was doing the dishes and the house was quiet and still. I sat down across from them, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, and I said the words that I had been rehearsing all day. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. My mother dropped the dish she was drying. It shattered on the floor, but she didn't move to pick it up. She just stood there, staring at me, her face pale, her mouth open. My father put down his newspaper, slowly, deliberately, the way he did when he was trying to control his temper, and he looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Something between disgust and disappointment, something that made me feel smaller than I had ever felt. "You're what?" "I'm pregnant, Dad. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this. It was a mistake. But I'm going to keep the baby. I'm going to be a mother. You're going to get rid of it. That's what you're going to do. You're going to go to a clinic, and you're going to end this before it ruins your life." "No, Dad, I can't do that. I won't do that. This is my baby, my responsibility. I'm not going to kill my baby because it's inconvenient." "Inconvenient, Sadie. You think this is inconvenient. This is a disaster. This is the end of your future, of your education, of everything we've worked for. You're 17 years old. You're a child. You can't raise a child. You can't even take care of yourself." "I can, Dad. I will. I'll find a way. I'll get a job. I'll finish school. You'll do what I tell you. That's what you'll do. You're still living in my house, eating my food, breathing my air, and you'll do what I tell you." My mother finally spoke, her voice small, trembling, the voice of a woman who had spent her whole life being silenced. "Richard, maybe we should." "Don't, Patricia. Don't you dare take her side. She's made her choices. She's made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. If she won't do what needs to be done, then she can't stay here. I won't have a slut under my roof. I won't have a daughter who throws away her future for a mistake. I won't have a child who brings shame to this family." "She's not a slut, Richard. She's our daughter. She's scared. She needs us. She needs to learn that actions have consequences, that choices have costs, that she can't just do whatever she wants and expect us to clean up the mess. She made this mess. She can clean it up or she can leave." I looked at my mother, begging her with my eyes to stand up for me, to fight for me, to be the mother I needed her to be, but she looked away, looked at the floor, looked at the broken dish, looked anywhere but at me, and I knew, in that moment, that I was alone, that she would not save me, that she could not save me, because she had never learned to save herself. "I'm not getting rid of my baby, Dad. I'm not killing my child. You can kick me out. You can disown me. You can pretend I don't exist, but I'm not going to do what you want. Not this time, not ever again." "Then get out, Sadie. Get out of my house. Get out of my sight. Get out of my life. You're not my daughter anymore. Not until you come to your senses. Not until you do what's right." I stood up, walked to my room, packed a duffel bag with clothes and shoes and the few things that mattered, and I walked out the front door, into the rain, into the hurricane, into the darkness, and I didn't look back. The rain was relentless, the kind of rain that didn't just fall but attacked, that didn't just wet your skin but penetrated your bones, that didn't just make you cold but made you forget what it felt like to be warm. I walked for what felt like hours, my duffel bag growing heavier with every step, my shoes squelching with water, my hair plastered to my face, my tears mixing with the rain so that I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. I didn't know where I was going, didn't have a plan, didn't have a backup. I just knew that I couldn't stay, Couldn't beg, couldn't grovel, couldn't pretend that my baby was a mistake that needed to be erased. I had made a choice, and I was going to live with it, even if living with it meant sleeping on the streets, even if it meant starving, even if it meant dying. But I wasn't going to die, not that night, not in that storm, because as I turned the corner onto Elm Street, I saw a light on in the window of my grandmother's apartment, a small, warm glow that cut through the darkness like a beacon, and I remembered that I was not alone, that there was someone in this world who loved me, who would take me in, who would fight for me, even when my own parents wouldn't. I climbed the stairs to her apartment, my legs shaking, my hands trembling, and I knocked on the door, softly at first, then harder, then pounding, desperate, afraid that she wouldn't hear me, afraid that she wouldn't open the door, afraid that I would be turned away again. The door opened, and there she was, my grandmother, Evelyn Marin, her gray hair in curlers, her bathrobe tied around her waist, her eyes wide with shock and concern. She looked at me, soaked and shivering and 7 months pregnant, and she didn't ask questions, didn't lecture, didn't judge. She just pulled me inside, wrapped me in a blanket, and held me while I cried. "It's okay, Sadie, it's okay. You're safe now, you're home." They kicked me out, Grandma. They locked the door. They said I'm not their daughter anymore. They said I have to get rid of the baby or never come back. I know, baby, I know. Your father called me. He told me what happened. He told me not to take you in. He said you made your choices and you have to live with them, but I'm not going to listen to him. I'm not going to abandon you the way he did. You're my granddaughter and I love you, and you're staying here with me for as long as you need. What if he comes here? What if he tries to make me go back? What if he... He won't, baby, he won't, because I won't let him. This is my home, my door, my rules, and he doesn't get to tell me what to do, not anymore, not ever again. My grandmother's apartment was small, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a living room that doubled as a dining room, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people, but it was warm, it was safe, and it was mine, at least for now. She gave me her bed, insisted on sleeping on the couch, and refused to let me argue. You're carrying a baby, Sadie. You need your rest, you need to eat, you need to take care of yourself, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to be here for you, no matter what. I don't know how to be a mother, Grandma. I don't know how to raise a child. I don't know anything. No one does, baby. Not at first, not really. You learn, you figure it out, you make mistakes, you get better, and you love. You love that baby with everything you have, and somehow, some way, it's enough. What if I'm not enough? What if I fail? What if my baby hates me the way my parents hate me? Your parents don't hate you, Sadie. They're scared, they're confused, they're wrong, but they don't hate you, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter because you're enough. You've always been enough, and you're going to be a wonderful mother. I know it, I feel it, I believe it. I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that she was right, wanted to let go of the fear that had been gripping my heart since I saw those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, but the fear was persistent, tenacious, a weed that kept growing back no matter how many times I pulled it out. The next morning, my grandmother made me breakfast, eggs and toast and orange juice, the first real meal I had eaten in days. I had been so sick, so scared, so consumed by the drama of my parents' rejection that I had forgotten to eat, forgotten to take care of myself, forgotten that I was not just surviving for myself anymore. You need to see a doctor, Sadie. You need prenatal care. You need to make sure the baby is healthy, that you're healthy. I don't have insurance, Grandma. I don't have money. I don't have anything. You have me, and I have savings, not much, but enough. Enough for a doctor, enough for the baby, enough to get you through until you can stand on your own 2 feet. I can't take your money, Grandma. I can't. You're not taking it, I'm giving it. It's a gift, no strings attached, no payback required. Just let me help you. Let me be your grandmother. Let me do what I should have done years ago, when your father was making your life miserable and I was too scared to interfere. It's not your fault, Grandma. It's not your responsibility. You didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything right, either. I watched from the sidelines. I kept my mouth shut. I let your father control you the way he controlled everyone, and I told myself it wasn't my place, that I shouldn't interfere, that you had to fight your own battles. But I was wrong. Sadie, I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to do better, starting now. I went to the doctor that afternoon, a small clinic on the other side of town, where the waiting room was crowded and the chairs were uncomfortable and the magazines were years out of date. But the doctor was kind, a young woman named Dr. Chin, who didn't judge me for being 17 and pregnant, who didn't lecture me about my choices, who just listened and examined and reassured. The baby looks healthy, Sadie, strong heartbeat. Good size, you're about 7 months along. Everything seems normal, but you need to take care of yourself. You need to eat well, rest well, avoid stress, and come back for regular checkups. I don't have insurance, Dr. Chen. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. We have a sliding scale based on income, and there are programs, state programs, federal programs that can help. I'll give you the information. I'll help you apply. You're not alone in this, Sadie. There are people who want to help you, who want to support you, who want to make sure you and your baby are healthy. I left the clinic with a folder full of pamphlets and a heart full of hope, not because my problems were solved, not because the future was certain, but because I had taken the first step, had reached out for help, had let myself be vulnerable, and had not been turned away. The weeks that followed were hard, harder than anything I had ever experienced. I was tired all the time, my body aching, my back hurting, my feet swollen. I couldn't sleep, couldn't get comfortable, couldn't find a position that eased the weight of the baby pressing against my organs. But my grandmother was there every day, making me meals, rubbing my back, reading to me from the books she had loved as a child. She talked to my belly, sang to my belly, told stories to my belly, and I began to believe that maybe, somehow, I could do this, that maybe I could be a mother, that maybe I could give my baby the love that my parents had never given me. Have you thought about names? She asked one night, as we sat on the couch, watching the rain fall outside the window. A little. I like the name Grace for a girl and Joshua for a boy. Those are beautiful names, Sadie, strong names, names with meaning. Grace means favor, blessing, and Joshua means God is salvation. Both are perfect for a baby who is already a blessing, already a salvation. I don't know if I believe in God anymore, Grandma. Not after what my parents did. Not after they used God as an excuse to kick me out. God isn't your parents, Sadie. God is in the church. God is in the people who judge you and condemn you and throw you out. God is love. God is grace. God is the voice that tells you to keep going, even when you want to give up. And that voice is still there, isn't it? You can still hear it even now. I listened, and she was right. There was a voice, small and quiet, buried beneath the fear and the pain and the exhaustion. A voice that said, you can do this. You are not alone. You are loved. And I held on to that voice, clung to it, let it carry me through the darkest nights and the longest days. The baby came on a Tuesday, 2 weeks early. After 18 hours of labor that felt like an eternity, I was in the hospital, holding my grandmother's hand, screaming and crying and pushing, and then, finally, miraculously, there was a cry, not mine, but the baby's, a small, furious, beautiful cry that filled the room and my heart and my soul. It's a girl, the doctor said, a healthy, beautiful girl. They placed her in my arms, and I looked down at her tiny fingers and her tiny toes and her tiny nose, and I fell in love, the kind of love that is instant and overwhelming and unconditional, the kind of love that changes everything, the kind of love that makes you willing to die for someone, to kill for someone, to live for someone. Hello, Grace, I whispered. Hello, baby, I'm your mommy, and I love you, and I'm never going to leave you, never going to abandon you. Never going to make you feel the way my parents made me feel. You are wanted. You are loved. You are mine. My grandmother was crying, tears streaming down her face, her hand on my shoulder, her voice choked with emotion. She's beautiful, Sadie. She's perfect. You did it. You did it. We did it, Grandma. We did it together. I named her Grace Evelyn, after my grandmother, the woman who had saved me, who had taken me in, who had loved me when no one else would, the woman who had spoken a single word that changed everything, a word I would not fully understand until years later, when I was standing in my own home, holding my own daughter, and thinking about the power of that word, the weight of that word, the freedom of that word. But that word would come later, much later, after the hard years, after the struggles, after the victories. For now, there was just this moment, this baby, this love, this beginning. I stayed with my grandmother for 2 more years, working part-time at a diner, saving every penny, taking community college classes at night, learning how to be a mother and a student and a provider all at once. It was exhausting, overwhelming, impossible, but I did it because I had to, because Grace deserved better, because I deserved better, because my grandmother had taught me that I was capable of more than I had ever imagined. When Grace was 2, I moved into my own apartment, a small one-bedroom in a safe neighborhood, close to my grandmother, close to the community college where I was finishing my associate degree. I had a plan, a future, a dream. Not the dream I had imagined as a teenager, but a better dream, a realer dream, a dream that was mine. The years that followed were a blur of diapers and deadlines, of late-night feedings and early morning classes, of sacrifices and small victories. I watched Grace take her first steps, heard her say her first words, held her when she cried, cheered when she laughed, and fell more in love with her every single day. She was the center of my world, the reason I got up in the morning, the motivation that kept me going when I wanted to give up. My grandmother was there for all of it, babysitting when I had classes, bringing meals when I was too tired to cook, offering advice when I was unsure. She was the mother I had always wanted, the mother my own mother had never been, and I loved her more than I could ever express. You're doing a good job, Sadie. You're a wonderful mother. I don't feel like a wonderful mother. I feel like I'm drowning, like I'm barely keeping my head above water, like I'm one mistake away from losing everything. That's how every mother feels, baby, especially the good ones, the ones who care, the ones who are trying, the ones who love their children more than themselves. You're not drowning, you're learning to swim, and one day, you'll look back and realize that you've crossed the ocean. I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that she was right, wanted to let go of the fear that had been my companion for so long, but the fear was persistent, tenacious, a shadow that followed me everywhere, whispering that I wasn't good enough, that I would fail, that Grace would be taken from me, the way everything else had been taken from me. My parents never reached out. Not once, not a call, not a card, not a text. They had erased me from their lives, from their memories, from their hearts, and I had learned to live with that, had learned to stop hoping, had learned to stop waiting for an apology that would never come. My grandmother told me that my father had been diagnosed with cancer a few years after Grace was born, that he was undergoing treatment, that he was struggling, that my mother was struggling too, but she didn't suggest that I reach out, didn't pressure me to forgive, didn't tell me that I owed them anything. She just told me the facts and let me decide what to do with them. He's not the same man he was, Sadie. He's older, sicker, more fragile. The cancer has humbled him, I think, made him question the choices he made, the way he treated people, the way he treated you. I don't care, Grandma. I don't care if he's sick. I don't care if he's sorry. I don't care if he's changed. He locked me out of the house during a hurricane. He left me to die. He abandoned his own daughter because she wouldn't kill her baby. I can't forgive that. I won't forgive that. Not now, not ever. I'm not asking you to forgive him, Sadie. I'm just telling you what's happening. You can do with that information what you want. You can reach out. You can stay away. Luck had nothing to do with it. You worked hard. You sacrificed, you made choices, and you earned every bit of success you've achieved. Don't sell yourself short. Don't pretend that your story doesn't matter, because it does. It matters to those girls, and it matters to me. I wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that I had earned my success, that I deserved to be happy, that I was more than the sum of my parents' rejection. But the old doubts lingered, the old fears whispered, and I carried them with me. Everywhere I went, a weight that never quite lifted. Grace grew, from a baby to a toddler, from a toddler to a child, from a child to a teenager. She was smart and funny and stubborn, with a will of iron and a heart of gold. She asked questions about my parents, about her grandparents, about why we never visited them, why they never came to her birthday parties, why they didn't exist in our lives. Mommy, why don't I have a grandma and grandpa like my friends do? You do have a grandma, baby. You have Grandma Evelyn, and she loves you more than anything in the world. I know, but why don't I have the other ones, the ones who are supposed to be your mommy and daddy? Because they made choices, baby, choices that hurt me, choices that I couldn't accept, choices that meant we couldn't be a family, not the way families are supposed to be. Do they love me? I didn't know how to answer that, didn't know if my parents were capable of love, didn't know if they thought about Grace, wondered about her, missed her. Regretted the choices that had kept them apart. I wanted to believe that they did, wanted to believe that somewhere, deep down, they felt something for the granddaughter they had never met, but I couldn't be sure, and I couldn't lie to Grace. I don't know, baby, I don't know if they love you, but I know that I love you and Grandma Evelyn loves you, and that's enough, that's more than enough. You are surrounded by love, every day, in everything you do. Okay, Mommy, okay. When Grace was 12, my grandmother died. It was sudden, a heart attack. Her heart had been weak for years, but she had hidden it, had refused to complain, had refused to be a burden, had refused to let us worry. She died in her sleep, peacefully, the way she had lived, quietly, without fuss, without drama. I was devastated, lost, adrift. My grandmother had been my anchor, my rock, my safe harbor, and without her, I didn't know who I was, didn't know how to navigate the storms that were still raging inside me, didn't know how to be a mother without her guidance, her wisdom, her love. Grace was devastated too. She had loved her great-grandmother fiercely, had cherished the time they spent together, had learned from her the same lessons I had learned, about love, about forgiveness, about the power of showing up, even when showing up was hard. Mommy, what are we going to do without her? We're going to keep going, baby. We're going to honor her memory. We're going to live the way she taught us to live, with love, with courage, with grace. I miss her already. I know, baby, I know, I miss her too. But she's still with us, in our hearts, in our memories, in the stories we tell about her. She'll always be with us, no matter what. The funeral was small, the way my grandmother would have wanted, just family and close friends, people who had loved her, people whose lives she had touched, people who would carry her memory with them, the way I would carry her memory every day for the rest of my life. My parents didn't come. I hadn't invited them, hadn't told them about the funeral, hadn't reached out. I didn't want them there, didn't want their presence to taint the memory of the woman who had saved me, who had loved me, who had been the mother I needed, when my own mother had failed. But after the funeral, I received a letter, in my mother's handwriting, the first communication I had received from her in 15 years. It was brief, just a few lines, but the words seared into my heart like a brand. Sadie, I heard about your grandmother. I'm sorry for your loss. She was a good woman, better than I ever was. I hope you can forgive me someday. I hope we can see each other before it's too late. I'm not well. Your father is not well. We're running out of time. Please, I'm begging you, please come. I read the letter 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, my hands shaking, my heart pounding, my mind racing. After 15 years of silence, after 15 years of abandonment, after 15 years of pretending I didn't exist, she was reaching out, asking for forgiveness, asking for a chance, asking for something I wasn't sure I could give. I didn't respond right away, didn't call, didn't write, didn't visit. I needed time to think, to process, to decide what I wanted, what I needed, what I could live with. Grace watched me, worried, confused, her eyes following me as I paced the apartment, as I stared out the window, as I sat in the dark, thinking, always thinking. Mommy, what's wrong? Why are you so sad? I'm not sad, baby. I'm thinking, trying to figure something out, trying to decide what to do. Is it about the letter? About the grandma I've never met? Yes, baby. It's about the letter, about the grandma you've never met, about whether we should go see her, whether we should give her a chance, whether we should let her into our lives. What do you want to do, Mommy? I don't know, baby. I don't know what I want. I don't know what's right. I don't know what I can live with. Grandma Evelyn always said that the right thing is usually the hard thing, that the easy path is rarely the right path, that love is about choosing the hard thing, over and over, because the hard thing is the thing that matters. I looked at my daughter, at the wisdom in her eyes, at the courage in her heart, at the love that radiated from her, and I knew that she was right, that my grandmother was right, that the hard thing was the right thing, that love was about choosing the hard thing, even when the hard thing scared you, even when the hard thing hurt, even when the hard thing felt impossible. I wrote back to my mother, a short note, not forgiving, not forgetting, but acknowledging, a crack in the door, a sliver of light in the darkness. Mom, I got your letter. I'm not ready to forgive you. I'm not ready to forget, but I'm willing to see you, to talk to you, to try to understand. I'll come, with grace, next week. Don't expect too much. Don't expect me to be the daughter you wanted. I'm not that person anymore. I'm someone else, someone you don't know, someone you may not like, but I'm your daughter, and I'm willing to try, for Grandma's sake, for Grace's sake, for my sake. I didn't tell Grace about the letter. Not yet, not until I knew more, not until I had seen my parents, not until I understood what I was getting into. I wanted to protect her, the way my grandmother had protected me, to shield her from the pain that I had experienced, to give her the childhood I had never had. But the day before we were supposed to leave, I sat her down and told her everything, the whole story from the beginning, about the pregnancy, about the hurricane, about the locked door, about my parents' rejection, about my grandmother's love, about the years of struggle and sacrifice and survival. She listened, her eyes wide, her face pale, her hands clasped in her lap. Your grandparents did that to you? They locked you out of the house during a hurricane? Yes, baby, they did. Why, Mommy, why would they do that? Because they were scared, because they were wrong, because they didn't know how to love the way your great-grandmother loved, the way I love you, the way I will always love you, no matter what. I don't want to meet them, Mommy. I don't want to see people who hurt you like that. I know, baby, I know. And you don't have to. You can stay here with a friend while I go, but I need to go. I need to see them. I need to understand. I need to find out if there's anything left to save. The drive to my parents' house took 3 hours. 3 hours of watching the familiar landscape of my childhood scroll past the window. The marshes, the oak trees draped in Spanish moss, the small towns with their shuttered storefronts and single traffic lights. I had made this drive 100 times as a teenager, always heading home, always dreading the reception, always hoping that this time would be different, that this time my father would look at me with something other than disappointment, that this time my mother would speak up, would defend me, would choose me. But this time was different, not because I was hoping for a warm reception, not because I expected anything from them, but because I was no longer the scared, desperate girl who had been locked out in the rain. I was a woman, a mother, a survivor, and I was not going to let them break me again. Grace had decided at the last minute to come with me, not because she wanted to meet her grandparents, but because she didn't want me to face them alone. She had looked at me that morning, her eyes steady, her jaw set, and said, "I'm coming, Mommy. You shouldn't have to do this by yourself." "Are you sure, baby? You don't have to, I can." "I'm sure. I want to be there for you, the way you've always been there for me." I had cried, of course. I seem to cry a lot these days. Tears of gratitude, tears of fear, tears of love for this girl who had grown into a young woman before my eyes, this girl who had inherited my grandmother's strength and my stubbornness, and none of my parents' cruelty. The house on Magnolia Street looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the porch sagged, the yard was overgrown. It had once been a source of pride for my father, a symbol of his success, his status, his place in the world. Now it looked like a monument to neglect, to decline, to the slow decay of a man who had spent his whole life building walls and was now trapped behind them. I parked the car, sat for a moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my heart pounding in my chest. Grace reached over and took my hand, her touch warm, steady, grounding. "We can leave, Mommy. We don't have to do this. We can turn around and go home and never look back." "No, baby, I have to do this. I've been running from them for 17 years, and I'm tired of running. It's time to face them, to see them, to finally put this to rest." "I'm right here, Mommy. I'm not going anywhere." "I know, baby, I know." My mother opened the door before I could knock, as if she had been watching from the window, waiting. She looked old, older than her years. Her hair was gray, her face was lined, her eyes were hollow. She had once been beautiful, or so I remembered, but the years had not been kind to her, or perhaps they had simply revealed what had always been there, a woman hollowed out by regret, by fear, by the choices she had made, and the choices she had failed to make. "Sadie, you came. I didn't think you would, I hoped, but I didn't think." "I came, Mom, not for you, not for Dad, for me. I needed to see you, to understand, to finally close this chapter of my life." "You look good, Sadie. You look healthy, happy. Your grandmother would be proud." She was proud, she told me, every day. She told me that I was enough, that I was loved, that I was worthy, things you never told me, things you should have told me. She flinched, as if I had struck her, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of guilt, of pity, of something that might have been compassion, but I pushed it away. I hadn't come to make her feel better, hadn't come to ease her conscience, hadn't come to absolve her of her sins. I had come to see, to understand, to finally, after 17 years, speak my truth. My father was in the living room, sitting in his recliner, the same recliner he had sat in the night he locked me out, the same recliner where he had read his newspaper and ignored his family and judged everyone who didn't live up to his impossible standards. He was thinner now, sallow, his skin tinged with yellow from the cancer that was eating him alive. An oxygen tank sat next to his chair, tubes snaked across his lap. And he looked at me with eyes that were tired, defeated, old. Sadie. Dad. You came. I came. I didn't think you would. I didn't think you'd want to see me, not after everything. I didn't, not for a long time, but Grandma died, and I realized that life is short, that time is precious, that I didn't want to live with regrets. I didn't want to wonder what might have happened if I had reached out, if I had tried. I'm sorry, Sadie. I'm sorry for what I did, for how I treated you, for the words I said, the things I didn't say. I was wrong. I was so wrong, and I've regretted it every day for 17 years. I looked at him, this man who had once loomed so large in my life, who had controlled my every move, who had made me feel small and worthless and unlovable, and I felt nothing, not anger, not pity, not forgiveness, just a vast, empty nothing, where my feelings for him used to live. Why, Dad, why did you do it? Why did you lock me out? Why did you abandon me? Why did you choose your pride over your daughter? Because I was scared, because I was weak, because I didn't know how to be a father to a daughter who was different, who made choices I didn't understand, who forced me to confront the limits of my own love, and I couldn't handle it. I couldn't admit that I was wrong, that I had failed you, that I was the one who wasn't good enough. You weren't good enough, Dad. You were never good enough. You were a bully, a tyrant, a man who used God as an excuse to judge and condemn, and you missed out on 17 years of your granddaughter's life because you were too proud to say you were sorry. Grace had been standing in the doorway, watching, listening, her arms crossed over her chest, her face unreadable, and now she stepped forward, into the room, into the space between me and my father, and looked at him with an expression that was too old for her years, too wise, too knowing. You're my grandfather? Yes, I'm your grandfather. I'm sorry we've never met. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, for your mother, for any of it. Mommy told me what you did, how you locked her out of the house during a hurricane, how you told her you didn't want her anymore, how you chose your reputation over your own daughter. I was wrong, I know I was wrong, and I've spent 17 years regretting it, wishing I could take it back, wishing I could be the father your mother deserved. You can't take it back. You can't undo what you did. You can't make up for 17 years of silence and rejection and pain, but you can be different now. You can try to be better. You can show up, even when it's hard, even when it's late, even when you don't deserve a second chance. My father looked at Grace, at this girl he had never met, this granddaughter he had missed, and I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before, humility, maybe, or regret, or the beginning of understanding. You're right, Grace, you're right. I can't take it back. I can't undo what I did, but I can try. I can be better. I can show up if you'll let me, if your mother will let me. My mother had been standing in the corner, silent, watching, and now she stepped forward, her hands clasped in front of her, her eyes wet with tears. Sadie, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I failed you. I was weak. I was scared. I let your father control me, and I didn't protect you, didn't stand up for you, didn't choose you, and I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Why, Mom? Why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you stand up to him? Why didn't you choose me? Because I didn't know how, because I had spent my whole life being controlled, first by my parents, then by your father, and I didn't know how to be strong, how to be brave, how to be the mother you needed. I was broken, Sadie, and I didn't know how to fix myself, let alone help you. Grandma wasn't broken. Grandma stood up to Dad. Grandma took me in. Grandma loved me the way you should have loved me. Your grandmother was stronger than me, braver than me, better than me. She was the mother I should have been, the grandmother Grace deserved, and I'm grateful to her for taking care of you, for loving you, for being what I couldn't be. We sat in the living room, the four of us, a family that had been shattered and was now, tentatively, awkwardly, trying to piece itself back together. My mother made tea, the same tea she had made when I was a child, chamomile, with honey, and we drank it in silence, not knowing what to say, how to bridge the chasm of years and pain and regret. Grace was the one who broke the silence, finally, her voice soft but steady. Grandma Evelyn used to say that the hardest thing about love is that it requires us to be vulnerable, to open ourselves up to the possibility of being hurt, again and again, and that the people who love us are the people who are willing to be hurt, over and over, because they believe that we're worth it. Your grandmother was a wise woman, Grace, wiser than I ever was. She was, and she loved Mommy more than anything, and she loved me, even though she didn't have to, even though I wasn't her responsibility, even though she was old and tired and had every right to rest. She showed up every day because that's what love does. I wish I had been more like her. I wish I had been the mother your mother needed, the grandmother you deserved. You can't go back, Grandma. You can't change the past, but you can be different now. You can show up now. You can try to be the person you should have been, even if it's late, even if it's hard, even if you don't deserve it. I watched my daughter, this girl I had raised, this girl who had inherited my grandmother's strength and my stubbornness and none of my parents' cruelty, and I felt a swell of pride so intense it almost hurt. She was more forgiving than me, more compassionate, more willing to offer grace to people who hadn't earned it, and I didn't know if that was a gift or a curse, but I knew that it was who she was, who she had always been, who she would always be. I'm not ready to forgive you, I said, finally. I'm not ready to pretend that the past didn't happen, that the wounds aren't still there, that I'm not still angry, still hurt, still struggling to understand how you could do what you did. I don't expect you to forgive me, Sadie. I don't expect you to forget. I just wanted to see you, to tell you I'm sorry, to ask for a chance, however small, however late, to be part of your life, to be part of Grace's life. I can't promise you that. I can't promise anything, but I can promise that I'll try, that I'll be open, that I'll give you a chance to prove that you've changed, that you're different, that you're worthy of the second chance you're asking for. That's all I ask, Sadie. That's all I've ever wanted. A chance. Just a chance. We stayed for 2 hours, talking, crying, remembering. My father was too weak to talk much, but he listened, his eyes following me around the room, his expression unreadable. My mother asked about Grace, about school, about her friends, about her dreams, and Grace answered, patiently, kindly, the way my grandmother would have answered, the way I should have answered, but couldn't, because the wounds were still too fresh, the scars still too tender. When we left, my mother hugged me, for the first time in 17 years. Her body was frail, her arms were thin, her grip was weak, but she held on, longer than I expected, longer than I wanted, and I felt something shift, something loosen, something that might have been the first small crack in the wall I had built around my heart. Thank you, Sadie. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving us a chance. Don't thank me yet, Mom. Thank me when I come back, if I come back, when I've had time to process, to think, to decide what I want, what I need, what I can live with. I'll wait, Sadie. I've waited 17 years. I can wait a little longer. The drive home was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a storm, when the wind has died down and the rain has stopped and the world is still and waiting. Grace sat in the passenger seat, her head against the window, watching the landscape scroll past, the marshes, the oak trees draped in Spanish moss, the small towns with their shuttered storefronts and single traffic lights. Are you okay, Mommy? I don't know, baby. I don't know if I'm okay. I don't know if I'll ever be okay, but I'm better than I was. I'm lighter than I was. I feel like I've been carrying a weight for 17 years, and I finally put it down. Do you think you'll go back? Do you think you'll see them again? I don't know, baby. Maybe someday, when I'm ready, when I've had time to process, to think, to decide what I want, what I need, what I can live with. Grandma Evelyn would be proud of you, Mommy. She always said you were the strongest person she knew, and she was right. I'm not strong, baby. I'm just too stubborn to give up, too stubborn to let them win, too stubborn to let the past define me. That's the same thing, Mommy. That's what strength is, refusing to give up, refusing to let the past win, refusing to let anyone define you but yourself. I looked at my daughter, this girl who had grown up before my eyes, who had inherited my grandmother's wisdom and my stubbornness and none of my parents' cruelty, and I felt a swell of gratitude so intense it almost hurt. She was the best thing I had ever done, the best thing I would ever do, the proof that love could survive even the darkest of times. The weeks that followed were strange, unfamiliar. I found myself thinking about my parents, about my mother's tears, about my father's hollow eyes, about the words they had said, the apologies they had offered, the regrets they had expressed. I didn't forgive them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. but I stopped carrying the weight of my anger, stopped letting it define me, stopped letting it control me. I went back to work, to my job at the nonprofit, to the teenage mothers who looked up to me, who saw themselves in me, who believed that if I could survive, they could survive, too. I told them my story, the whole story, not just the parts about survival, but the parts about forgiveness, about letting go, about the choices we make to free ourselves from the past. You don't have to forgive the people who hurt you. I told them. You don't have to forget what they did. You don't have to let them back into your life. But you do have to let go of the anger, because the anger will eat you alive. It will consume you. It will become the thing that defines you. And you are so much more than the people who hurt you. How do you let go, Sadie? How do you stop being angry? You do it one day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. You decide that you want to be free more than you want to be right. You decide that your peace is more important than your pride. You decide that you deserve to be happy, even if the people who hurt you never apologize, never change, never become the people you needed them to be. Grace started high school that fall. She was 14, tall for her age. With my grandmother's eyes and my stubbornness and a smile that could light up a room, she made friends easily, excelled in her classes, joined the soccer team, and for the first time, I had to share her with the world, had to let her go, had to trust that I had given her the tools she needed to navigate the challenges that lay ahead. Are you nervous, Mommy? Terrified. Baby, I'm terrified, but I'm also excited. Excited to see who you become, excited to watch you grow, excited to be there for you no matter what. You've always been there for me, Mommy. You've never let me down. You've never made me feel like I wasn't enough. You've never made me feel like I was a burden. You've loved me the way Grandma Evelyn loved you, and that's the best gift anyone could ever give. You're not a burden, Grace. You've never been a burden. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. The reason I kept going when I wanted to give up. The reason I fought for a better life. The reason I'm the person I am today. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. More than you'll ever know. My mother called every week. At first, I didn't answer. Let the calls go to voicemail, listen to her messages, her voice tentative, apologetic, hopeful. She didn't ask for anything, didn't demand anything, didn't expect anything. She just called to say hello, to say she was thinking of me, to say she loved me. After a few months, I started answering, not every time, but sometimes, when I felt strong enough, when I felt ready, when I felt like I could hear her voice without falling apart. We talked about the weather, about Grace, about work, about nothing important, and slowly, gradually, the distance between us began to shrink. How are you, Sadie? How are you really? I'm okay, Mom. I'm better than I was. I'm learning to let go, to forgive, to be at peace. I'm proud of you, Sadie. I've always been proud of you. Even when I didn't say it, even when I didn't show it, I was proud of you, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you. I'm sorry I let my fear get in the way of loving you the way you deserve to be loved. I know, Mom, I know. And I'm learning to accept that you did the best you could, even if your best wasn't enough, even if it hurt, even if it wasn't what I needed. That's more than I deserve, Sadie. That's more than I ever hoped for. It's not about what you deserve, Mom. It's about what I need, and I need to let go. I need to forgive. I need to be free. My father died 6 months later. His cancer had spread. The treatments had failed, and there was nothing left to do but wait. My mother called me, her voice breaking, to tell me that the end was near, that he was asking for me, that he wanted to see me one last time. I went, not for him, not for her, but for me, because I didn't want to live with the regret of not saying goodbye, because I wanted to close this chapter of my life, because I wanted to be free. He was in a hospital bed, in the living room, where the family had gathered for holidays and birthdays and Sunday dinners, the same room where he had read his newspaper and judged his family and locked me out of his life. He was thin, pale, his eyes sunken, his hands trembling, but when he saw me, something flickered in his gaze. Something that might have been recognition, or gratitude, or love. Sadie, you came? I came, Dad. I didn't think you would. I didn't think you'd want to see me. Not after everything. I didn't, not at first, but I realized that I didn't want to live with the regret of not saying goodbye, that I wanted to close this chapter of my life, that I wanted to be free. Are you free, Sadie? Are you finally free? I'm getting there, Dad. I'm getting there. He reached out his hand, trembling, weak, and I took it. His skin was cold, his grip was fragile, but he held on. as if I were the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. I'm sorry, Sadie. I'm sorry for everything, for the way I treated you, for the words I said, for the things I didn't say, for the years I wasted, for the love I withheld. I was wrong. I was so wrong, and I'm sorry. I know, Dad, I know. Do you forgive me? Sadie, can you forgive me? I looked at him, this man who had loomed so large in my life, who had controlled my every move, who had made me feel small and worthless and unlovable, and I felt something I hadn't expected, not anger, not pity, not forgiveness, but something else, something softer, something that might have been compassion. I forgive you, Dad. Not because you deserve it, not because you've earned it, but because I need to let go, because I need to be free, because I can't carry this anger with me for the rest of my life. Thank you, Sadie. Thank you. You don't know what that means to me. You don't know how much I needed to hear that. I love you, Dad, even after everything, even after the pain, even after the years of silence. I love you, and I'm sorry that you wasted so much time being afraid, being angry, being wrong. I love you too, Sadie. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to show it. I just didn't know how to be the father you needed. He died that night, peacefully in his sleep. My mother was holding his hand. Grace was sitting in the corner, her eyes wet, her face pale, and I was standing by the window, watching the rain fall, the same rain that had fallen the night he locked me out, 17 years ago. He's gone, Sadie, he's gone. I know, Mom, I know. He loved you, he loved you so much. He just didn't know how to show it. He was broken, we were both broken, and after the ceremony, Grace found me in the crowd, her cap and gown trailing behind her, her eyes bright with tears and joy. We did it, Mommy, we did it. You did it, baby, I just watched. No, Mommy, we did it, you, and me and Grandma Evelyn, we did it together. You gave up everything for me, you sacrificed, you struggled, you never gave up, and I'm here because of you, because of your love, because of your strength. You're here because you're strong, Grace, because you're smart, because you're determined, because you're everything I ever hoped you would be, and more. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby, more than you'll ever know. Here's what I want you to know. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, the one who was abandoned, the one who was rejected, the one who was told you weren't enough, the one who had to fight for everything you have, hear me. You are not what they said you were. You are not the mistake, the disappointment, the failure. You are the one who survived, the one who kept going, the one who found a way to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because you deserved peace. And survival is not pretty. It's not clean. It's not a movie where the credits roll and everyone lives happily ever after. Survival is messy. It's years of therapy and healing and learning to trust again. It's forgiving yourself for not being perfect, for not being strong enough, for not being fast enough, for not being enough. It's planting roses in a garden and waiting for them to bloom. It's sitting on a porch and watching the stars and letting go of the weight you've been carrying your whole life. But survival is also yours. No one can take it from you. Not the parents who abandoned you, not the family who rejected you, not the world that didn't see you. You survived, and that is the only victory that matters. My grandmother said one word to me the night my parents locked me out, one word that changed everything, one word that gave me the strength to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep hoping, and that word was stay. She didn't say stay as in stay in the storm, stay in the pain, stay in the place where I was unwanted. She said stay as in stay alive, stay strong, stay hopeful, stay present, stay with me, stay in this world, because you matter, because you are loved, because you are enough. Stay, Sadie, stay. And I did. I stayed, I survived, I thrived, I built a life, a family, a future, not the one I had imagined, but a better one, a realer one that was mine. My name is Sadie Marin. I'm 34 years old. I have a daughter who is brilliant and beautiful and strong. I have a mother who is trying to be better. I have a grandmother who is gone but never forgotten. And I have a word, a single word, that carried me through the darkest night and into the light. Stay. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been abandoned, rejected, told you weren't enough, leave a comment. Tell me, what word kept you going? Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.